The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're gonna love it.
Okay, let's go.
All right, so this is pretty wild. Literally, you're one of the people that I liked from the second I saw you. And now I can't even believe we just found out we're both from Ohio. Not only that, we're both from the Cleveland area. Not only that, Matt Kim went to Gilmore High School, which was a rival school of mine, and I went to Hawken High School. So anyway, all right, listen, everybody, this is going to be fun, because if you've been on social media and really Instagram for me over the past, I'd say 18 months to maybe 2 years, chances are you have seen one of this guy's videos. And for me, it started out with your Titan submersible video that exploded. And I'll never forget, it's like 5 days. They made us wait 5 days. And then they told us the fucking submersible blew up. And I remember you dropped the F-bomb. And I was like, man, I love this guy. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. Ray, thank you so much for having me on your show. I really appreciate it. Huge fan. And yeah, thank you for the time.
Well, feeling is definitely mutual. Okay. All right. So listen, before we dig into the really meaty issues, I would like to start off by just understanding, like, what prompted you to start creating content, and what prompted you to start, like, basically expressing your opinions as honestly, as boldly as you did during, the Biden administration. And then was it that Titan submersible video that really kind of like catapulted your following?
Yeah. I think like most people, you kind of start noticing around the world the irregularities of what's going on. You can feel the narrative building around you. And even the people that read or watch the news regularly can feel it in their hearts that something is fundamentally broken.
Right.
And people have this feeling of frustration that constantly builds. And I just felt like I wanted to say something. And the reality is, when you start talking to the internet, no one actually cares. No one listens because they don't know who you are.
Yeah.
But you just have to go through the exercise. You have to do it. And I always approach it as, how do I think about topics? When I read a news story, what is my thought process? And what I decided to do is I'm just going to outline in the best way that I can my thought process of how do I come to conclusions and put it out into the world. And people started listening. One of the videos I did actually prior to the Titan video, which is one of the first videos I did, was I did a video talking about all the things that the government has lied to us about over the years, especially regarding COVID. They told you that you can't see your grandma. They told you that you have to stay home. They told you that if you go outside, you're going to kill your neighbor's grandma. So you have to lock up. You have to take these shots. And I was like, that's bullshit. And that's one of the first videos I did. And people were like, this was really early and maybe 2 years ago. People were like, I don't know if you can say that on the internet. And I wasn't on the internet a lot. I didn't know you're not allowed to say those things.
Yeah.
I didn't know that those things were getting censored. But once I saw the response of people saying, thank you, Matt. I can't believe you said that out loud. I've been thinking it. I've been feeling it. We've been in this weird kind of dystopian timeline where if you say something that is against the main narrative, they were censoring you.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying it first. And I don't know. Once I started getting those messages of people, I really felt like I had to keep on going.
No, totally. And it's interesting. And obviously we're going to get a lot into this. It's funny. You look back over the past, really starting with COVID, all of that. So let's go take it back to 2020. You've got the Biden administration, and, during that time, I was the same as you. It's like, you're kind of scared to say things. And like all of the conservatives out there and all the people that like were getting censored and all that. What's crazy is now here we are during the Trump administration, and I feel like we're right back in the same place. Now you're kind of scared to say things as well, but it's a different type of thing. And we'll get into that. We'll get into that in a minute. But okay, so you started posting content, you started looking at things and really just expressing your opinion. Did you get censored at all, or did you get anything, from Meta or from, I mean, even bigger entities, or not really?
Yeah, I mean, I remember in 2020, I had this really small YouTube channel. And the summer of 2020, I started to live stream because everyone was home. And I started talking about things. And my channel before that was like about cars, had nothing to do with geopolitics. And I just turned on the stream because I knew that people that were watching me, the handful of them, were home also. And I just wanted to spend time and pass time. And I started talking about things like, this is something weird about COVID. It feels like this reorganization of the world,
Right.
maybe something along the lines of maybe a new world order. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And YouTube started deleting those videos, and they would send me messages saying, "Hey, this is misinformation. This is harmful to society, etc." And at that time in 2020, it didn't occur to me that I was being censored. Actually, I thought, man, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm taking this too lightly? And maybe what I'm saying online, even though it's not a huge audience, maybe 100 people, maybe like I am actually doing bad for society. What if I'm wrong?
Interesting.
And I actually stopped talking. I actually shut down my YouTube channel. I shut down my Instagram, everything that I had. And I completely went off the internet for 2 years because it was like, what if I'm wrong? I don't want my neighbor's grandma to die. I don't want my grandma to die. I don't want people around me to
Right.
get hurt.
Right.
What if I'm speaking about this in a way that's overly belittling the situation? And I feel like I'm right, but what if I'm wrong? And I did this something really dangerous, which is I self-censored.
Mhm.
And as we start to learn about the reality of what actually happened in 2020, 2021, I got really pissed off. I'm furious because
Yeah.
I self-censored because I was trying to do what's better for society. I was trying to do what's best for my neighbor, for my family, for my friends. And I realized they weaponized that feeling of wanting to be a good person against me. And I was like, that is really fucked up because to weaponize and dangle grandma in front of your face to get you to shut up because it didn't go to their narrative, that may be one of the most evil things I've ever experienced in my life. And that makes me more adamant to be a pure free speech advocate, to be able to say things out loud. It doesn't matter if I believe or I agree with you at all, actually. I don't mind that I don't agree with someone, but I believe in your right to be able to say it. And
Right.
this is
Right.
kind of what drove me down this road. I mean, I've had videos deleted on Instagram during the Biden administration. I've had my TikTok account banned on during the Biden administration. I've had strikes. I interviewed Dr. Peter McCullough, who was one of
Wow.
the people that were most advocates for being, you should be careful about the shots. And that video got deleted and I got a strike. I've been suspended on YouTube for talking about these topics. And I'm not an extremist at all. I think I'm very fair, very logical. But for some reason, they found that threatening. And I've been deleted or banned or struck on pretty much every single platform on the internet, which is crazy. Because again, I am not an extremist. I'm just saying
No,
what people think in their mind.
you're not at all. And I told you this when we had a initial conversation. Honestly, and I mean this, and I want everyone to hear this. You were one of the people that honestly motivated me to start Deep Shallow Dive, to start the podcast. I had a very similar journey as you, where it just didn't make sense. Like, COVID did not make sense. And to this day, it does not make sense. And it's very disappointing in the Trump administration, among other things that are disappointing in the Trump administration, which we'll get into in a second. But, they haven't really pulled the curtain back on all that either. And I attribute some of that because Trump himself was, hey, the king of the vax, Operation Warp Speed was his baby. And whether he brought that forward for political reasons because he felt like he had to, he hasn't come back and apologized for it. If anything, he's doubled and tripled down. You've got this Operation Stargate that he launched in day 1 or day 2 of his presidency with the CEO of Pfizer and then Sam Altman from OpenAI. And so it's like all this, man, it makes you think like, what is really going on? But I wanted to say thank you because I remember, and actually I remember my brother shared a bunch of your content with me, and he even said, he's like, hey, take a look at what this guy's doing. It seems like a nice roadmap for what you want to do. So I appreciate the fact that you did that. It really did. You were critical in basically me gaining the confidence and also just the desire to put my thoughts out there with Deep Shallow Dive. So thanks for that, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, even when I did that Titan video, which we referenced a little bit earlier,
Yeah.
I made that video and I kind of wrote out the outline of what I wanted to say, and I've been thinking about it. And actually, Will, who's in the studio with me, he said, Matt, what do you think about the Titan? And he would ask me every single day for an entire week. And I was like, I just don't care about this stupid submarine at all. But
Yeah.
everyone's talking about it. So I made this quick video and I said, hey, I have some notes down. And Will goes, you should record this video and put it out there. People actually care. I told him, man, I actually don't care at all. I have no interest in making this video. And he said, no, like, I think you should make it. I was like, dude, I know I already wrote down my ideas, but I don't want to make this video. And he's like, Matt, you really did do it. He said, how about this? Let's make a deal. Just do one take on it, make one video and put it out there. And if no one watches it, nobody cares, whatever, we'll move on. I said, fine. I recorded it and I was like, nah, I don't really like it. And he said, whatever, let's just put it up there. Fine, I'll put it out there. And I think in 3 days, it did something like 20 million views and everyone's sharing and selling it. And the reality is that you can't predict the internet. You don't know what the internet's going to react to.
Right.
You just got to put your honest ideas out there into the world and the internet will decide. You can't force that. And some people chase the algorithm. Some people try to force ideas or chase ideas.
Yeah.
And I just don't agree with that method. I think that, value is in scarcity. And if you are the person that's just honest and genuine and put your ideas out in the world, like some things may go, some things may not. But in the long run, I think you win.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I've kind of had those battles with myself where it's like, should I not? And then you just have to put everything out there and you never know what's going to hit and what's not going to hit. And it's funny. It really shouldn't even be about what's going to hit and what's going to not hit. Like I try to get that out of my mindset and be like, hey, you know what? Just spit your truth and who cares what happens to it? Who cares if one person hears it or if 1 million people hear it? Just talk about your truth. Okay. So I seriously followed your journey. So from there, I felt like, okay, I saw you then getting, kind of like brought into, I don't know if you want to call it Team Trump or the conservative side, but I saw you attending, the Trump events. I saw you attending that stuff. Talk us through all that, because I think that'll be interesting for people because you're not in that quote unquote camp so much anymore. And we'll define that in a little bit, but talk us through kind of like what started happening with that series of events and folks and all that.
Yeah, I've always been a rather conservative person. So I believe in conservative values. I believe in a focus on family, on community. So I've always naturally been rather conservative, but that's in my personal values. I started making videos talking about Trump, especially with the trial going on. And a lot of it was not even to be overly pro-Trump. It was the news was focusing on things that were in court documents, etc., that just weren't true. So I started just calling out the irregularities in their reporting. And people within the Trump side and within the Republican side were like, wait, he actually makes a lot of sense. And he's reaching an audience that may not be overly conservative. I think my audience is actually somewhere in the middle, which is most of America.
Yeah.
And people that are just a little more anti-establishment, which is what I am. And they started just watching. And I had an opportunity, a friend of mine had an opportunity to go to Iowa for the first Trump primary. And he was like, Matt, I'm going to go up to Iowa. Why don't you just come along with me and come check it out? I said, okay, that sounds like a fun trip. Like, I've never been to kind of any of these primary events before. I've never been to a Trump rally. He said, why don't you just come check it out? And I get there and I start meeting people within the Trump team and we're exchanging information. And I quickly realized that a lot of Team Trump on the marketing side and the PR side and the campaign side, they were all following me because we're exchanging information and it says follow back. I was like, huh.
Oh, funny.
Which I thought was really cool. And that weekend in the first primary in Iowa, there was a blizzard, the biggest blizzard in Iowa history, meaning all the other influencers, content creators, news related people couldn't get into that city that day. So Team Trump, they were actually awesome. They said, look, you're here and there's not a lot of people covering this. We'll let you we'll give you a badge and you can walk around the campaign area wherever you want, talk to whoever you want to talk to. And they just basically gave me a pass that said all access. There was no discussion of you can talk to this person, you can ask them this, you can't talk about this. They literally just opened the door and said, have fun. And I actually really appreciated that.
Yeah.
Because I tried to get into the Biden campaign and they did not want to let me in. They would deny me constantly. And I wanted to just report fairly of what I personally see. So I got inside the Trump campaign. They gave me access. In there, there's really high energy. You know, when Trump won Iowa, I was excited because everyone was excited. It's like this, even if you're not rooting for a certain football team, but you're at the stadium and the team that you're with, they win, you celebrate.
Absolutely.
And those clips started going viral and people were like, oh, you really support Trump. And yeah, I liked Trump better than I liked Biden. I like Trump better than I like Kamala, but I'm more focused on the side of the people than the side of the establishment.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they gave me access. And what am I going to do? Say, no, I don't want to go see.
And by the way, was this 2024 or 2020? I'm blanking on.
2024
Okay,
leading up to the election.
Okay, leading up to 2024. Okay.
And they come to town and there's a rally. If you want to show up, Matt. And I show up and my name's on a list and they let me in and, you know, like, oh, here's a Wi-Fi, have fun. And the news will say, oh, no one's at the Trump rally. And I'm looking around like, this place is packed.
Yeah.
What am I going to say? That's not true.
And so is your point person like a PR company, or is it, you know, you're not talking about like Don Jr. and Eric and Lara Trump, are you? Like who's kind of giving you the information, or if you had a question, who are you going to?
Yeah, they don't really give me a point contact. It's just I get a message or an email that says, hey, Trump's in town. Do you want a ticket? And I say, yes. Got it. And then I show up and I have access. Got it. It was never a coordinated, hey, why don't you specifically do this or that? It's kind of cryptic. I get a message and it's probably I'm part of some list or short list somewhere. And if I'm in town and there's something going on, I just text them back, hey, I'm going to be in town. Can I show up? And they're like, yes. And I show up. And they did vet me the very first time. And they do a Secret Service check, make sure that I'm not a criminal, that there's nothing wrong there.
Oh, that's interesting.
So once I passed that one time, and because I've been to a few, so it's a lot of the same people that travel with the campaign at the front. So I've been there with my wife, with my daughter. My daughter is very young, very cute. So even the women working at the front of the gate, they start to recognize who my daughter is. Yeah. So she's kind of standing there and saying, oh, your dad's coming. You know, he's going to be soon. So it just became a thing because it's the same amount of people that travel. And I really like that about the campaign, that there was a very big family atmosphere. A lot of the people there were the same people. So they recognize you, they took care of you. And again, no one ever said, I can't do this, can't do that. They were just like, all right, Matt, you're here. You're pretty fair. You don't seem to have a huge agenda one way or the other. Have fun. And I took advantage of that.
No, and by the way, you totally were fair. You did not have an agenda. Like, you know, you were not somebody I looked at as a Trump fanboy. You know, there's so many fanboys out there that just refuse to even recognize anything negative. I never grouped you in that category. And even when I saw you kind of in their mix, in my opinion, I was like, all right, that's cool, man. He's kind of, you know, made it to that stage with those guys. Okay. I'm going to now pause our interview and I'm going to play the video that basically was your goodbye to MAGA. So everybody take a look.
This was really early on, by the way.
Yeah, I know. So take a look at this.
This is where we say goodbye. It's been an honor to fight alongside you under the mission and stated goal of winning the country back, exposing the lies and deception in our society and bringing power back to the people. But the reality is, our work is not complete. It has just begun.
We didn't remove the establishment. We have a new establishment. Looks like there's a plan to remove the deep state, but it's getting replaced by a new deep state. We didn't want to be ruled by a billionaire class, and now we're ruled by a different billionaire class. We're just in a new timeline. The matrix has been reset. I've always been the contrarian, rejecting the mainstream narrative in favor of opposing views and independent thought. So this is where I say goodbye to many of you. Not all. A healthy portion will want to continue down this journey of critical, free thought. But many of you will not be able to see the truth, locked into the propaganda that a group of billionaires and members of the protected class are here to save you. We fought for Trump because Kamala and Biden were objectively worse. But the election is over. The people at the top, their lives have changed for the better. I'm looking around. Our lives are exactly the same. And one might say, but he's not inaugurated yet. Fair. You can live reactively. I'll live proactively. If you start solving a problem when it's already a problem, it's already too late. Politicians give us countless promises, but inevitably always disappoint. Because politics is a game of favors, and in the hierarchy of debts paid, we're at the bottom of the list. They say conservatives were getting censored. That's only partially true. The top podcasts in the country are conservative. The top news channel in the country is conservative. The top voices and talking heads with the most followers and views are conservative. None of them got silenced. Only you did. And they knew it was happening. How many of them spoke out for you? None. They just talk at you. The agenda, the narrative. The top of the pyramid is healthy, strong, and faces no problems in life. The bottom of the scheme, where you and I live, we're the ones constantly fighting for survival. I won't join them. It's dirty, ungodly, corrupt, and disingenuous up there. For the last several months, we've been tiptoeing, walking on eggshells, allowing the propagandist lies, but not anymore. I've had the opportunity to see behind the veil at the top of politics, the top of media, the top of business and society. Spoiler alert, they don't actually care about you.
All right, so talk us through that. Like, what happened? Or what? Yeah, I mean, what happened?
You know, being around the campaign, you start to understand who the players are, who the propagandists are. And in all fairness, in running a presidential campaign, you're going to have a lot of propaganda going out on your side. Fair. At the same time, I'm just not a propaganda guy. I think it's important that if you elect someone to power, you're even more responsible to hold them accountable to the things that they promise to do. I think even if you are considered MAGA, it's make America great again. It's not make Trump great again. And I think that there is a sort of disconnect where people think that you need to follow the person and the people that he is surrounding himself with, rather than forgetting that the fact that no, this whole movement was supposed to be to make America and the people around it better. And I just wanted to clarify that when I said goodbye, MAGA, and it's not that I'm saying goodbye to the people. I think the people are amazing, actually. It's that I am not on the side of the establishment propaganda. I do not like that the technocracy is getting so much power. I do not like that we are adding all these surveillance measures. And we'll talk about this later, I'm sure, but I'm very anti-surveillance. I think privacy is freedom. And I could see the shift of kind of the agenda of what we were told versus what are the first things that come out of their mouth day one. And I'm like, something's wrong here.
Yeah.
And it would be very disingenuous for me to say I'm on board with the direction that I'm seeing. We have to say something. See something, say something. Like, how many times have we said that in our lives?
Yeah.
Why don't we live that true to ourselves? See something, say something. I saw it. I had to say something.
Well, you know what? I give you so much credit for doing that, because you were, and you took it to a whole different level. And by the way, you saw it really early. I'll tell you, when I saw it was Inauguration Day. Inauguration Day, I don't know, something was off with that day to me. The people that were there, from Mark Zuckerberg to Jeff Bezos to like all the technocrats that hated him for 4 years. Now all of a sudden everybody's buddy. And something felt different that day. And then ironically, I think from Inauguration Day on, more and more people are like, wait a minute, who is this guy? This isn't the guy I voted for. And I think a lot of that has to do with really the Israel situation and kind of what's going on there. And, even that topic was so uncomfortable to talk about for so long. But I will credit Tucker Carlson. I will credit Candace Owens even Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, Steve Bannon to an extent, some of the people that, were diehard Trumpers are now, have opened the conversation. Let's just put it that way. They've opened the conversation to be able to say, okay, what's really going on here? Did we get censored for 4 years talking about COVID and vaccines, and the conservatives went crazy about that? And then now here we are 4 years later getting censored, giving an opinion on geopolitics when it comes to the Middle East. What are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people are realizing that a change in presidency doesn't change the trajectory of the country that much. Actually, what it does is there's more work to be done. And, there's a lot of people that thought that if Trump wins, the world's going to change forever. Do I still think that he's a better choice than Kamala? I do.
Right.
Although I often think, is it better to have, if you have both parties are evil, is it better to have incompetent evil or competent evil?
Yeah.
That's actually the scariest thought of it, because if Kamala won, she is evil, but she is incompetently evil. Meaning maybe she wouldn't have been as effective as accomplishing her nefarious goals. Trump is, I don't want to call him evil. I think in his mind, he has best intent. I just don't agree with his method. And I don't agree with a lot of people he surrounded himself with. But that was the knock on Trump the first time, too.
Right.
That he just surrounds himself with not the best people. So maybe that's on us for not realizing he would do it again. But he told us he would do it better the second time. And we just took him at face value. And again, we were not given much of a choice. The option was Kamala, who is notably not competent. And I was really concerned about having an incompetent president, especially because we had an extremely incompetent president for 4 years prior. Biden was not competent.
Yeah.
Can we survive as a country with another incompetent president? I didn't think so. But as far as everything with Israel, I mean, the first call that Trump made when he got elected to a world leader was Netanyahu.
Yeah.
The first world leader that came to visit Trump in person was Netanyahu. And when I saw that, I was like, wait a second. There's a lot of people in the world. There's a lot of bigger countries in the world. There are probably more important countries in the world. Why is that your first? Always, why is that the first? The first time you pull out a chair for a world leader, why is Netanyahu first? You start to see these things, and a lot of people call that noticing. But once you notice, you kind of can't unsee it.
Right.
The involvement and then the entwinement with the Israel and Netanyahu is kind of a political party. And it's not even all of Israel. It's kind of this fringe party that runs Israel. That's a huge concern for a lot of people. Anytime you mention that, anytime you talk about that, anytime you kind of bring it up as a point of contention, they're like, you're an anti-Semite. I'm like, wait, why is that true, actually? And we lived through that during COVID.
Right.
If you say something negative about COVID, they're like, oh, you hate people and you want to kill everyone. Like, no, I didn't say that at all, actually.
Yeah.
But
even the vaccine conversation. Hey, I didn't choose to get vaccinated. I didn't choose to put that in my body. And it's like, you're anti-vax, you're anti-science, you're anti-humanity. You want my grandmother to die. I mean, it's pretty crazy. It really went there. And then now we have the same thing. Substitute, I guess, COVID and vaccination for this relationship with Israel. I think you made a amazing point, though, and it's something a lot of people don't understand. It's really not even the country of Israel, and it's really not even just Netanyahu. It's this Likud party that is this right-wing extremist party. There's a documentary called The Bibi Files. I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard it's really excellent in basically exposing how Netanyahu, out of survival necessity, embraced this Likud party and basically sold his soul to the devil, which is crazy because most people think he is the devil, but he sold his soul to the devil by partnering up with this right-wing extremist party. And it's those guys that are calling the shots right now. So that's definitely something I've got to delve into more. Okay.
And Netanyahu is not even his real last name. It's like Milikowski or something like
Right,
this.
right, right.
And he chose a more Israeli name. And Netanyahu means chosen by God. So he could have chosen any name because he went to a name change, and he chose to name himself chosen by God.
By God.
Like,
Okay.
okay, like that tells you a lot about a person, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't. I knew that that was not his birth name or given name. And, you know, a lot of those leaders in Israel's entire history, nobody was born in Israel. They're all from Poland or Romania or Ukraine or Czech Republic or, you know, other European countries. So let me ask you this. I mean, what do you think is next in terms of really the MAGA movement, which seems like it's really fracturing? And then I do want to get your thoughts on the Epstein files, but what do you think is next with this, with the MAGA movement and the direction of the conservative Republican Party?
I think we're in a really concerning place. I think we're starting to see a split right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a bad thing. I mean, we have a lot of time to an election to figure things out. But
Yeah.
right now, at least we get to see who is who. We're starting to see clearly who is pure propaganda. And, you know, there are certain people out there who I actually used to like. I'm like, you can't watch them anymore
Yeah.
because you're just rotting your brain. It's no different than sitting around and watching MSNBC all day. It's just pure propaganda at this point. So I think we're starting to see exposure of certain people. I think that's a good thing.
Can
I
we
think
can we
that
name
there are,
some can we name some names? Like I'd be curious to who you think is unwatchable these days, and I'll name them too. By the way.
well, I always didn't. There was a time I thought Ben Shapiro was smart.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I can't watch him at all. I can't watch anything related to Daily Wire at all, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one. Charlie Kirk, I actually used to like for a while too, because I think he's very smart, very eloquent, puts his ideas down really well. I think he's phenomenal at what he does. But he actually doesn't care about what people think or want to say or what people are feeling. And it's more pushing the agenda hard down into your face to make you comply. That's just propaganda at this point. I think that's a concern. And he has these huge events where he brings people in to look like he's fair, but really it's doing it to increase his exposure and at the same time get the youth on his side. I think that's something to be very cognizant of and be careful of. So those are two that come to the top of my mind. I mean, obviously there's a lot of smaller ones that just stay purely 100% hardcore MAGA because that's their base. And if they were to break, I don't think they have the confidence to be independent or to carry ideas on their own. And it's really easy to be really hard MAGA because they kind of signal what they want you to talk about. And all you got to do is repeat those talking points. And you can have an audience. In order to not be MAGA or be conservative but not fully agree, actually, you have to think because no one's feeding you those ideas. It means you have to work. And people don't want to work these days. You know?
No, you're absolutely right. Those are two perfect ones. And I think those are the two biggest ones that a lot of people are like, wait a minute, man, this guy is off the plantation. There's other accounts like this Officer Tatum guy. He's a total clown. You know, I'll tell you the ones that I like and feel free to share yours. I mean, you know, you have to respect Tucker Carlson. You have to respect Candace Owens. You have to respect, you know, just anybody that would be considered or was considered MAGA, conservative Republican, basically going against the grain. And obviously Tucker and Candace, I mean, they are just calling it out, and they're just calling a spade, and they're really doing what you've always done in my eyes and what I've always tried to do. And that is just spit common sense. You know, do you like those guys?
Yeah, I've never met Candace, so it's hard to comment on, but I like her content. I just don't know her personally. I've met Tucker several times. I think he's super honest, genuine. I think he legitimately cares about the country. I love the fact that he's willing to admit when he's wrong. I think that's really rare in a commentator of his size and caliber because typically they will just double down and take no accountability for the words or their actions. And he'll say it all the time. It's one other time of the 100 I've been wrong before, because the more data you have, the more information you have, your opinion on matters can change. I love that he's willing to own that every single time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I believe in accountability. And I think the lack of accountability from a lot of our political commentators is a concern, because it's 2025. The receipts of what you said are there. So people are so scared of the cancel mob saying, well, you said this 4 years ago, so it
Yeah.
has to be reviewed forever. No, I thought if they told me to stay home, I should stay home 4 or 5 years ago. And I did for 3 months. I can own that. I was wrong. But why don't people want to have accountability in the fact that they can be wrong, and when you get more information, your viewpoints can change? And I love the people that are making the shift right now, because it's not easy to do. I mean, that MAGA army comes hard.
They do come hard.
I made that goodbye MAGA video, and that was maybe a week after the election.
Yeah.
And people, I mean, my DMs blew up that day for a week. You just used Trump campaign for your own benefit.
Yeah.
You never cared. You're like a grifter. I can't
Yeah.
believe like I ever thought about what you said. It's like, dude, we have
I
more
have to tell
information.
you, I followed all
Positions can
that.
change.
I read all your comments. I really did.
It was
and
brutal.
it was brutal. It was brutal. I can only imagine the DMs, because that's where people get even bigger balls to like be keyboard warriors. But the funny thing was, if you go in your DMs, you'll have a DM from me. I mean, you probably got thousands, so you didn't see it. But I sent you a DM, and I was like, dude, this took so much balls or something like that. And I said, you're seeing the same thing I'm seeing, and it's called MEGA and not MAGA. Or maybe I commented on your post. I said, hey, you're seeing MEGA and not MAGA. So obviously make Israel great again and not America great again. And the vibe I got from your post was you kind of saw that and you're like, okay, you know what? This isn't really what I signed up for. And this isn't really what I was supporting. All good, but I'm backing away from this. And I give you so much credit. And then I think you did kind of back away from creating content. And I'm going to use this as a perfect segue to talk about our next thing, because, you probably got to a point where you're like, okay, I need to focus on my business, focus on doing things, which you did. But per our conversation last week, we need Matt Kim 1.0 back, and then Matt Kim 2.0 is what we're going to talk about next, in order to bring those two things together to Matt Kim 3.0. But let's talk about virtual VPNs. And you launched your company, VP.net. And I'd like to spend the rest of today really educating everybody on VPNs and, what it is and what it's supposed to do. And then more importantly, what the current landscape of that is, because I've used them on and off, but I got to a point a few years ago where I'm like, wait a minute. The point of a VPN is that I don't trust the public facing internet, but then who's the company behind these VPNs? Like, why would I trust them? So anyway, tell us all about this.
Yeah, I mean, so I believe that privacy is freedom. The example for a lot of people say, well, why do I need a VPN? I'm not doing anything wrong anyway. And the easiest example is if you're home watching a movie, eating popcorn, do you want a stranger watching you eat your popcorn, watch your movie from the window? And the reality is no, it's a violation of your privacy. Well, that's the same thing that's happening on the internet. When you surf the internet, when you're online, the ISPs, the websites, they can see what you're doing. They know who you are. They can track everything to you. And you never actually agreed to that. When you use a Facebook or YouTube and you sign the terms and conditions and you put your stuff on the internet, you've agreed to let them see your activity. But when you surf the internet, you actually did not. And your internet history is probably one of the most private things you own. If I know your internet history, I know where you shop. I know what you like to eat. I know who your friends are. I know who your side chick is. I know what car you want to buy. I know what business you're getting into. I know what business you're thinking about getting into. I know what you're trying to do to solve your business problems. I know you. I know what your kinks are. I know you better than probably your best friend if I have your internet browser history. And the reality is that belongs to you. There's this famous cypherpunk quote that says, privacy is your right to selectively reveal oneself to the world. All your data belongs to you. It should be your decision on what information you share. But right now, we live in this backwards world where the tech companies, the governments, they take all of your information. We've seen this through Palantir and the rollout of their program. We're seeing through all these surveillance measures rolled out by ICE, which is supposed to be for immigration, but yet they're using it as American citizens. The data companies are logging you. Everyone is tracking what you're doing online. They're taking all that information and they are deciding what you get to keep. And something is fundamentally wrong with that model. So people say, okay, well then use a VPN. The problem is that these VPN providers, what we call our competitors, what we call maybe traditional legacy VPNs, they can see everything you do online. So instead of the ISP knowing everything you're doing, now this random company can see all you're doing.
Yeah.
The biggest
and by the way,
VPN provider.
let's define ISP for people. Are we talking about like Cox Internet, AT&T Internet, Verizon BIOS, those guys? Okay.
They have all your information. They know all your traffic. And basically, any government in the world can subpoena them, say, hey, I want to know what Ray's doing online. And they will give up your information because they have it all. That's a problem. They have your information. They give it all. And that's it. You will never know that they gave up your information.
And do
that's the world we live in.
Do they store our information? Like, are you talking about the past 10 years or is it even further? Like literally everything I've ever searched on my Google browser, and I want to talk about incognito mode in a second, but everything I've searched on regular Google browser, you're saying all that is cataloged for every person in America for the past 20 years? That's insane.
They know everything about you. It's actually really scary. Again, privacy is your right to selectively choose what you reveal to the world. You need to be the holder and protector of your own information. So
and by the way, that's in the ISP's hands, which obviously then the government has access to. And then let's talk about, does Google, Facebook, do the tech companies, even Yahoo, Microsoft with Edge browser and all that, do they also catalog it? So it's almost
everyone
like
has access to everything.
Okay. Wow. That's
really
scary.
Scary.
What about incognito mode? Is incognito mode any value whatsoever, or that's just your wife or girlfriend can't easily access your browser history?
That's all it does. All it does is make it so that it's not in your history, but it's in your backend. So you didn't hide anything from anyone except the people that you're supposed to trust. So the only people you're actually hiding from an incognito is your family members that may creep on your browser history. That's the only people that you're removing from this equation, by the way.
Yeah.
Which is kind of wild if you think about it. The only people you're protecting yourself is from the people that you're supposed to trust and love and care for.
Yeah.
Only people you're protecting yourself from. But everyone else involved in the entire chain knows exactly what's going on. So that incognito browser, it actually doesn't do anything.
Okay. And so these legacy VPN companies, I mean, I think there's a common theme about the ownership structure of these guys, right? Can we touch on
the
that?
largest VPN company in the world is a company called Cape. And the owner is an Israeli billionaire, has known ties to IDF, has been funding IDF, has hired Mossad, former Mossad for their CEO, CTO. This is all public information documented everywhere. And they own ExpressVPN, they own Private Internet Access, they own CyberGhost, and they own a lot of the review sites as well as other VPNs you've never heard of. So basically you go to a review site and you say, what's the best VPN? And then they give you 5 recommendations, but they own them all.
They own all of the recommendations. They own the review site. So basically, man, that is diabolical. That is
smart.
Diabolical.
I mean,
and it's very smart.
Move,
it's
genius,
smart. Absolutely.
But let's shut down TikTok because we're worried about the Chinese having our data. Okay. Well, the Chinese have your TikTok scroll history. Actually, it's not as big of a deal. What's bigger is that the Israeli billionaires have access to your internet history, which again, we started with, that's severely more private to you. We're giving
Absolutely.
all the information to them, and they say, look, we promise that we will not look, we will not share, we will not log, we will not compromise, we will not backdoor. We promise. And it's your job to say, oh yeah, I trust them. I'm just going to give them all my history. I don't know about you, but that's not the type of people that I want to trust with my information.
Absolutely. I don't know who to trust with my information. My God, it's pretty crazy, dude. That is really crazy when you really think about that concept and think about the ISP providers along with the tech companies, and then wedge in between these VPN companies. But then it turns out these VPN companies probably are in cahoots with the ISP and the tech companies. It's almost like a no-win situation. But then now you guys come in the mix. So tell us about VP.net. And in all honesty, why should we trust you, or why should we trust VP.net? What besides
Fair.
you as an individual? I trust you as an individual, but is there something different about the tech? Is there something different about the protocols and all that even if I didn't trust you, or even if I was like a super, let's say, leftist, or not a leftist, I'm sorry, Greg Stoker, a liberal, a crazy liberal. Do you know who Greg Stoker is? He's like a military guy. It's hilarious. He's this guy I've brought on a few times, and he's helped me understand there's truly a difference between a leftist and a liberal. And what we think about as like the crazy blue-haired Democrat, that's actually a liberal. It's not technically a leftist. So I correct myself all the time. But help us understand, what is it about VP.net that really makes it different than these guys?
Your traditional legacy VPN operates on the model of trust. You have to trust that these foreign companies who have access to your information, to your data, to your activity will never sell, log, share, compromise, trade your information. You have to just blindly trust them. That's the model. We think that in 2025, that model is insane. Given time and time again, when you trust big tech companies with your information, whether they choose to or not, they compromise you every single time. Everyone in this world absolutely knows that as a fact to their core at this point. Great. So what we've done is we've decided to invented a brand new systems architecture where we ourselves as a VPN provider cannot see your activity. If we can't see your activity, we can't sell it, we can't share it, we can't compromise it, we can't backdoor it. And we do that by running your traffic through something called a hardware secure enclave. Basically, there's these cryptographic boxes within certain processors. The one we use is Intel. And we cannot see inside. It's that they're literally created for that purpose. They're created for very high sensitive confidential key signatures. And we just figured out how to route network traffic through. So even if we wanted to sell you data, we couldn't because we can't access it. Even if we wanted to compromise your data, we couldn't because we can't access it. If any government in the world subpoenaed and say, give us raised information, every other VPN provider in the world actually has to give it up.
Yeah.
We cannot because we don't have it to begin with, and we can prove that we can't have it. And the way we built it is so that when our client connects to a server, it verifies and attests in real time that the server is running the code that we've promised to run, so that you cannot connect to a compromised server. So if the government said, we don't care if you can't give us data, build in a backdoor. Actually, in this world that we live in, you actually have to do it.
Mm.
We built in a failsafe that your client cannot connect to a compromised server. So they may be able to force us to do certain things. They may force us to comply because, again, when the government shows up with the government gun, there's actually very little you can do. That's the world we live in today.
Right.
So how do you solve for that problem is really all we thought about. Well, if that day were to come, how do we prevent any leak? How do we prevent any logging? How do we prevent the fact that if they force us to, we can't have the information to give? The biggest example is someone like Pavel on Telegram. And I don't know if you've been following that. Pavel, the owner of Telegram, is being held in Spain or in France because he did not want to give up people's IP addresses. The problem is that he had them. And maybe he's doing the right thing, say, I don't want to give them to you. And they say, okay, well, we're going to arrest you. Great. They arrested you because you had the IP
Yeah.
addresses to begin with, and you didn't want to give up the information you had. I don't want to go to jail.
Yeah.
So the only way to solve for this is I can't have the information to begin with, because if I don't have it and you say you have to give it to us, I can't give it to you. I can prove that I can give it to you, and we can cryptographically prove that we can't give it to you. I think that's the model. We call that a zero trust system, zero
Yeah.
trust architecture.
Yeah.
And we think that it's the way that privacy will be done in the future. And it's the only way that it actually works.
No, that makes sense. I mean, you don't have the data that they want. So that totally makes sense. Does that then require a lot less, I guess, server capacity on your part and infrastructure, or does it not matter there? Because I'm trying to think the current VPNs, where are they even storing all this search traffic? Like, this is just insane amount of data.
Yeah, it depends on the company. Some companies may not save it. Maybe they just have access to it. But
Okay.
again, you never know who you're giving access to. Some companies do save it. Some people do sell it and trade it on the data market. So it just depends on the VPN company. There's so many out there in the world. But for us, as far as infrastructure costs, actually it costs more because
Wow.
we are limited to certain types of servers that we cannot see inside. Most VPNs will use absolutely the cheapest bottom of the barrel servers available because they just need to route traffic. We don't have that, for lack of the word, luxury, because not all servers do what we need it to do. So our server costs are actually higher. I think we're price comparable considering that, meaning that it's more than profit, because I mean, it's a business, we're going to make money, but it's more about mission. We truly believe that privacy is freedom. And if you've noticed something wrong with the world, and you're like, and I get it all the time, Matt, what are we going to do about it? You can't actually do anything about it if you don't have privacy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
can never do something about it, whether today or in the future, if you don't have privacy, which is why they're taking it from you. Because privacy gives you the ability to organize. Privacy gives you the ability to communicate. Privacy gives you the ability to strategize. And once they take your privacy, that's it. You're stuck in whatever dystopian system they decide and they force upon you forever. Without privacy, change is not possible, which is why I'm so adamant about making sure that people have and retain their privacy. And some people don't care, which is wild to me. Do you want someone at your window watching you eat your popcorn and stream Netflix? Do you want that or not? And 99.9% of the people in the world are like, no, of course I don't want that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then why do you give them access to something that's even considered more private?
No, you're totally right. And that's a great analogy. I think people just don't think about it, and I think people, you know, it's kind of the problem of America. But I will tell you, I do feel an awakening happening. I feel an awakening of people basically against for lack of a better way of putting it, like against the man. Like the man is trying to keep you down. Now it's up to you to decide and define who you group as the man. I mean, I think prior to Inauguration Day, people would be like, oh, that's the globalist. That's Obama, Biden, George Soros. That's the man. And now I think a lot of people are like, oh, wait a minute. Is Team Trump, and let's say prior to the riff with Elon's an interesting character. I do want to get your opinion on him. But like Palantir, all of the tech bros, the tech oligarchs, it's almost like they're forming their own globalist cabal. So you've got the OG globalist cabal, and now you've got the new tech bro oligarch billionaire globalist cabal. And it's like, my fear is, what if these two groups decide, hey, you know what? Yeah, we don't like each other, but if we partner up, we can kind of take over the world. And I'm glad people are waking up to that, though. I really do think they are. And I think that plays into everything you're talking about with VP.net, because like I really learned a lot from understanding just how tracked my internet access is on my laptop, on my mobile. I'm assuming mobile is no different, right?
Same.
Dude, that's
You know,
insane.
I think most people, especially if they're watching your show, listening to your show, they agree. They would probably agree that the world is moving towards this one world government globalist agenda,
Yeah.
and that you can feel that happening. I think most people think that the person or the group that sits atop that food chain, that has been already decided. And I actually don't believe that to be true. I think what we're living through is the modern day Game of Thrones, for example. You have the technocrats and maybe the top of MAGA and Trump and his universe. You have the Zionists. You have maybe some of the older families that have been playing this game for a long time. You have maybe the Chinese. You have maybe someone from the Middle East. They're all actually scrambling and fighting internally, trying to figure out who sits top of the food chain. We assume that that's already been decided. So we say, oh, New World Order, look, Klaus Schwab is going to run everything. No, I don't think so. I think amongst them, they are still vying for who sits atop top. I don't think there's actually that much coordination between them. If anything, they are striking alliances for immediate purpose, but really they're all fighting. Because at the end of the day, if we're talking about one world government, only one person or one group wins. They can't all win. It doesn't work that way. Life doesn't work that way. So it may seem like there's certain alliances and and then they break treaties and they go after one another, and all of a sudden two people are like Elon and Trump are on one side, but now Elon's not on his side. We're just living through this shuffling of who's going to sit atop the food chain.
Yeah.
The good, there's a good and a bad to that. The good is that they actually haven't settled who wins. Meaning there's a little bit of chaos there. Meaning we still have an opportunity to fight back, retain our privacy, retain control, create parallel economies where we can actually do things that are better for humanity in general. There's a lot of people that can still fight on side team humanity. The bad is we're living in a war zone and we don't even know it. People are worried about World War III and its bombs. Actually, no. The World War III that we're living today in this modern day and age is the battle for who sits atop this new one world restructured government order. And this is what we're living through. This is why it's propaganda everywhere you look. It's propaganda versus reach versus bots. And Elon is building his army of bots. Trump has built his army of bots. The Zionists have infiltrated all over the world and they have their army of bots. Everyone is bot versus bot versus bot. Everyone's using technology to leverage themselves, amplify their reach and their propaganda message. And we are just the bystanders that are struck in the crossfire.
No, I think you're right, man. And I've used the Game of Thrones analogy before, but the way you just laid it out actually makes a ton of sense. And I think you're right. You know, I always thought, all right, they've got their act together. It's all organized and all that. And I even thought that about the Democrat and the Republican parties. And then the shit show we witnessed with the Biden to Kamala transition and all of the, backstabbing that occurred during that process just among the Democrats made me realize, you know what? Maybe I'm giving them a little bit too much credit. Maybe they don't have it all figured out and they're figuring it out as they go, which then gives the collective world the chance to really impede some of those plans, which again, I hope more people wake up, and we need Matt Kim at the forefront again, spitting his videos. I love when you wear your little Nike hat and it's right down to here and you're just spitting truth. Listen, dude, I really enjoyed this, and I so appreciate your time. It's so great to honestly just to get to know you on a personal level and build a relationship together. I would love to have you back on at some point and just kind of do more things together, because we absolutely are kindred spirits, and I truly respect not only the way you think about things, but the way you act on the things you think about. You proved it by, you could have just become another Trump fanboy. And you know what? It probably would have been a lot more fun. It probably would have been a lot more fun. You might have got invited to the inauguration. You might get to go to Mar-a-Lago, all of that, all the fun stuff. But you know what? You've followed your truth, and I love that, dude. My hat's off to you.
Thank you, Ray. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on. And thank you, everybody.
All right, buddy. All right, everybody. Hang on the line, Matt. Keep calling a spade like Matt Kim does. I'll put all of his links. I'll also put a link in VP.net. And, I'm going to try to work a deal with Matt where maybe I can get Deep Shallow Dive customers some type of percentage off and get you guys on a VPN that actually protects and safeguards your privacy, because I love the quote, privacy is freedom, because it really is. All right, everybody, keep calling a spade a spade.
This episode was brought to you by Zippix Nicotine Toothpicks. Zip more, smoke less. Totally satisfying, discreet, and delicious. Zippix nicotine-infused toothpicks are available in 6 great flavors, each containing at least 2 milligrams of nicotine to curb those cravings. Zippix is FDA registered and proudly made in the USA. Use discount code DSD for 10% off your order at zippixtoothpicks.com. Zip more, smoke less, save 10%.